Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Tom Stewart here. I'm with Liz Trotter. Our guest today is Derek Christian. This is Smart Business Moves.
Woohoo!
KPI month. We're doing sales today.
Yep.
I'm glad we're doing sales today. Marketing, really talking about marketing, just tied so smoothly into sales. I feel like we need it. Yes, excited.
It's it's a good way to
I
start the
see I'm
year
the only
off
one
because
though.
I get all warm and fuzzy about KPIs, Liz.
it doesn't take much,
Yeah,
does it?
normally. So you don't see that lag, Tom?
Yeah, I do now. It's
All right.
material.
So
I don't.
you saw Derek go.
So where do you think that's happening? Normally up in the top right, it'll tell you if you're like low on bandwidth, but if you are, there usually isn't, unless you've got other things running on your computer that you can turn off, other apps and whatnot.
I don't think I have
Sometimes that
anything.
helps.
I shut everything off on my end, so we'll see. Hopefully it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Why
Yep.
is on my laptop I don't have control. I can't add things like add people or add comments in.
You've probably never logged in as admin there
Yeah,
before.
yeah, not on this one.
I had a
All
Zoom
right.
call.
Well, anything
I had a
else
Zoom
new going
call.
on?
I had a Zoom call on my computer waiting to start for the last hour. I just noticed that and turned that off. Maybe that'll help.
Okay.
Are you late to something or?
Was that?
No, I had
noise?
a Zoom call scheduled at 4:00, but I was stood out.
Oh well.
I wonder who would do something like that to you, Tom. I can't even believe that.
You're just beyond comprehension. Liz and I had a call scheduled, but I think it snowed or something and it messed her up.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to use the snow. Yeah. It
Not
was
even
more
that
a
much
matter
snow.
of
It's like 2-day-old
me.
snow.
No, it's snowing.
Oh, it's snowing again? Okay.
It's been snowing for a couple hours now.
That wasn't supposed to start till tonight, so oops.
Yeah.
How's the
early.
travel? Anybody get kind of hung up, delayed? Any of that mess?
Yeah, a couple people. I don't think anybody got canceled, but quite a few people got bumped, or maybe not quite a few. The last I heard, 3 people, had gotten bumped, and so they were going to be coming in late. Somebody's not getting in until like midnight tonight, which is really hard. It's an hour drive down here. The event starts tomorrow morning. I'm like, ugh. But what are you going to do? Travel right now, right?
Yep.
Is what it is.
We haven't seen you in a while, Derek. What's been going on in your world?
Craziness. I actually just bought another rental house this afternoon, so that was my latest fun.
Oh, cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are you guys still buying the big house up on the mountain by the tree?
No, we wanted to, but it gets scary when you're building up there. Builders say things like, "Oh, I don't know, somewhere between 800,000 and 3 million, depending on conditions," and that's a little bit of a range. So,
Oh, yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I'm kidding.
so we decided
we
we were a little uncomfortable with the $2 million margin for error in his quote. So we're like, I think we're going to pass on that.
Well, I know this is like going, off topic, but normally you have a plan from a builder. I mean, from an architect, you take it to a builder. They look at it and they can give you.
Well, this is literally like virgin land on the top of a mountain. So it was like, well, we're going to have to do some surveys to figure out what the soil is made out of. And depending on the answer, the piers are somewhere between this and this. And we might have to anchor this far back. And the water somewhere between 200 and 1,000 feet down for your well. And yeah, it just, there were a lot of, somewhere between these two really big numbers.
Then you do the environmental studies, and hopefully we aren't going to be dislodging some endangered species or something. I mean,
the numbers got real big real fast if anything came in wrong. So we're like, you know what? I think we'll stick to subdivisions. And while it sounded all cool and glamorous to build on the side of a virgin mountain, the numbers got scary. So,
it was kind of scary driving up there too, to be honest. I was like, this road is really thin and really bumpy and really windy up here.
Imagine it when it snows. Yeah, we were also told. We're also told when it snows, you need to plan to spend a week or two up there.
Okay. Well, I think you made a good decision there, Derek. Good decision. All right. What else is going on in the world? Anything?
Well,
No?
Liz, you're in Colorado. You want to share what you're up to and why you're on the road?
Yeah, I'm at Laura Smith's event. Are you going to pop up, or can you pop up her event, Tom? Operational Excellence. It's a 3-day event here in Fort Collins. It's completely sold out. So if you're thinking, oh, I could make that, I live really close. Sorry, sold out. There is an online version for that is going to be doing the same thing. I think next month. Is that right, Derek? Next month?
Yeah, I believe it starts in February.
Yeah, in February. A lot of people here. I think they're
Operational Excellence.
40.
You have a URL for me, Liz?
I don't. I'm not at my computer. Derek will have it.
I'll pull something up. It was just I forget the name of it, not Evite, but one of those platforms that hosts events for you.
I'm with you. I can find it on Facebook.
Yeah,
I got it.
right.
I'm almost there.
I'm not even trying.
I know. Let us do all the work.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, there are about 40 people coming here from all across the country. Flying in, driving in. I've met already with at least 6 different people that have come in. I know Denise Baker, hey Denise, is already here. I know Nina and Derek Hazelwood are both in the house already. Sandy from Natural Care is here. She brought her daughter, which is fun. Ashley Matuska is here. Lawrence is here. There's actually a good chunk of people here. We ate at Snooze today, and they gave us free food. It was fun.
Okay.
Why did they give you free food?
We didn't know. About maybe 3/4 of the way through the meal, they came out with this beautiful platter that had a big pineapple pancake, a big blueberry pancake, and then some French toast called, I can't remember, like All the Wow or something like that. And that stuff was amazing. See, there's Denise. Hey, Denise. Yeah, so I think she got here on Monday. Well, anyway,
Cool.
People are already coming in. Laura is running around like a chicken with her head cut off, making us all laugh hysterically. She's, okay, we need to do this. We need to do this. She's leaving without her coat, with no sleeves on her shirt, going outside and come back, get your coat.
You should have seen her yesterday when I was setting up the snacks, and apparently I did not arrange the kind bars artistically enough. She's like, you don't just dump them in a bowl. So I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It works. I'm impressed you have kind bars, much less they have to be artfully arranged.
They're everything is being arranged very artfully over here. You know, that is also not my strength. So
yeah, no, when the iron came out for the tablecloths, I was like, and I'm out. You've exceeded my level of design. So
all looks good in here.
I'm thinking about past foundations events and our setup routine for that. I can't imagine ironing the tablecloths.
Yes.
I can't imagine tablecloths.
No, me either.
Well, she wanted to iron the gift bags, but we got her to admit that was a little too far.
Yeah. I'm looking at the gift bags and they're in pretty good shape. I'm like, did they actually decide to iron these? Why did they look so good? I was expecting them to be really wrinkled. All right, well, we should get started with KPIs, I think. Sales
let's do
KPIs
it.
and everything around there. That takes time. All right, Derek, you're up.
Well, when it comes to sales KPIs, it's actually kind of funny because with like a lot of key performance measures, the top line one, the one you watch, is actually pretty simple. And that is basically what percentage of your leads convert to either one-time or ongoing service. And we track those two things. How many go to one time and then how many go to reoccurring. And we track it that way for a couple of reasons. First of all, if it gets to one time, at that point, I wouldn't say we consider the salesperson's job done because we would have wanted them to try to sell them on reoccurring. But what happens on that one time makes a big difference, whether or not it can go to reoccurring. So I want the salesperson to sell something. And then I'm hoping that my cleaners do a fantastic job and convert them. And so that's the top line number that you watch. Because at the end of the day, as long as that number stays in the right range, you don't need to dig into any detail. And that's kind of the truth with a lot of your KPIs. You sort of want to have a dashboard number, which is your overall number. And as long as that's in an acceptable range, I mean, if you're curious, you can dig in more, but you can't watch every number. So I just keep a real close eye on what percentage of my leads convert to one-time cleanings and what percent book to recurring. And if I notice I'm selling too many one-times and not enough reoccurring, there's a couple of things that can be going on. One of which is my salesperson's being lazy and just selling one-times. The other thing that can happen seasonally is you can fill up your schedule with one-time cleans and not have space for the recurring. So we'll make a real clear decision certain times of years, like holidays and, end of the school year when there's, graduation parties and stuff, that we do not want to book up our schedule with one times, and I'll tell our person, hey, listen, you can only fill this many slots. So that's the one thing we want to watch, is making sure that we're not booking too much of one and not enough of the other. And you can also have the opposite. For a long time, we were so short-staffed that we wouldn't book one times. We would only take recurring. So we wanted to see our recurring number to be way, way higher than normal. Now,
I'm pretty sure here where I am right now at Laura's at All Star, they're not booking one times right now. They're only
just
booking.
started to again because they finally got fully staffed. But yeah,
Yay, good.
I own Reliable Cleaning in Fort Collins, which pretty much lives off of All Star scraps. So when somebody calls and there's no availability, like, call Reliable. So yeah.
That's your primary marketing channel, your lead channel.
Yes, All Star Rejects
that Laura doesn't want. Okay, very good.
So Derek, one of the things that you said was, oh, sorry, Tom, did you have something?
Just, we might be asking the same question, that, when your salesperson gets lazy, you sell more one times. Is it harder to sell recurring than it is one time?
Generally it is. And some people are just really uncomfortable asking. It just seems easier to them to just be like, let's just book them once and see what happens. I want people to just say, oh, so you want every other service? Okay, so we're going to do every other Tuesday, and set that expectation. And we're not really talking KPIs now, but sales process. I do think it's a mistake that some people won't let customers book recurring. They're like, oh, well, we do a one time and then we call and we follow up with you. And I'm like, no, when you have that person on the phone, just book them. Just get them on the schedule.
Yeah.
Get them to say yes and then go back.
Absolutely. All right. Well, you brought back to the question that I was going to ask, is you have mentioned a couple of different times the right number. What is that? What is the right number of sales?
Well, my advice is you want to know your own number and get better, because there's lots of reasons that your numbers can be different, and we'll get into that in a minute. But if I'm not seeing about 40% of leads converting at a minimum, and I mean all leads. Sometimes when I throw that number out, people are like, I sell 80%. And then when I start poking at it, they don't. I mean someone who called you and gave or contacted you. Could be a web form, could be a home advisor lead. Somehow that you got a name, address, phone number, email, and something that implied I'm interested in cleaning. So I don't mean if you gave away had a contest at a home and garden show and collected 300 names. I mean somebody that in some way implied, I want a cleaning service from you. and they're looking for an estimate. I typically want to see a minimum of 40%. Now it can be higher, it can be lower. That's going to vary based on your availability. If you're booking 3 months out, which some people are, you're not going to close as many. So it's a little dangerous to say you should be closing X percentage. My point is you always want to get better. You don't want to get worse. You want to
Does
see
somebody have? I'm sorry, Derek. Does somebody have Facebook like open on their computer? Because I'm kind of hearing a reverb of what you're saying, Derek, about 2
I
seconds
have it in the
after you
background,
say
Tom.
it.
Let me close it.
Yeah, because I
that
think
might be
I
what's
think
slowing you down a little too.
I didn't know it was open. I saw the tab up though. Is that good?
Cool.
Yep.
Now, another number that I really like to look at is what percentage of your leads did you even get to quote? Because, how many people were you able to even get a quote to? Because that has a lot to do with your process. Are you following up enough? Are you trying to get in touch with them? And if you're only quoting half of your leads, then you can dig in a little bit more and try to figure it out. I blame the process more than the salesperson for the ability to get somebody a quote. Meaning, are you calling multiple times? Are you texting? Are you emailing? That's where things like software automations can help you get a higher conversion rate. Now, once they get on the phone and you give them a price, now I'm looking a little bit more of the sales ability of the salesperson. So that's when I want to see the close rate of the people that you gave a quote to how many did you actually quote, which, we're rambling without numbers here in spreadsheets, so it makes it tricky sometimes.
Well, you can share your screen and pull up a spreadsheet if you want.
But these are all top line numbers. Like I said, your top line numbers, what percentage are you closing? As long as that's in an acceptable range and getting better, you don't need to dig into the details. But it's when things start to look bad or you want to try to improve it that you want to look at the details. And Tom, I know you had this experience where you had a new salesperson come in and saw a sudden increase in sales, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was awesome. It makes a difference. It makes a big difference if somebody has the skill set to be persuasive.
Yeah. And it can make a big difference in the opposite direction too. Go ahead.
So your 40% number, and I know, there's a lot of things that factor into that. Is that 40% of the quotes convert?
No, I want to see about 40% of the leads convert to something. And if it's lower than that, I want to start poking at why. And there's a lot of reasons why. Now we're getting into some more KPI stuff. One of my first questions is where are your leads coming from? I want to look at lead source reports. Not all leads are the same. If you're buying a bunch of Home Advisor leads, chances are you're not even quoting a bunch of them. So you got to be careful about that. If you're doing some of, I find pay-per-click often brings me lower quality leads. I don't know why. I don't know if because it gets more impulse people. But I find that people that find me on natural search and fill out a web capture form typically have a higher close ratio than people who do pay-per-click. I don't know if because that's more bots or competition. I've never quite figured out why. It's just something that I've seen happen. People who fill out a form on your website, if you don't have an instant way for them to get a quote, are going to have a lower conversion rate. So those are all things that I want to look at is where did it come from? Because if you're getting leads, especially leads you're paying for, and you never even get them a quote, that's a channel you need to stop paying for because you're never even talking to those people.
I noticed, like you mentioned, Home Advisor. I guess that's kind of merged in with Angie now, if I understand how all that works.
Oh my God. Okay. If we want to get Derek on a rant. So Angie and Home Advisor. So if you're paying for an ad on Angie's list, when people ask for a quote from you, Angie also sends the lead over to Home Advisor, which also sends the lead to Handy. So, which they also own. So when somebody requests a quote from you, like goes to your profile on Angie and requests a quote, it also gets sent to Home Advisor and Handy. So, which really sucks because Angie's List used to be one of my favorite companies back when it was Angie's List and they were actually about quality and things like that. But man, they've just become terrible right now. I did this with someone the other day and was showing them the consumer point of view of Angie, where I'll go onto your business profile and request a quote. And it says, hey, thank you so much for requesting a quote from Reliable Cleaning. We also sent your request to Home Advisor. Expect 4 phone calls back. And and they charge you for that.
You pay for that.
Yeah, they charge you to set up a profile on Angie, where when people ask you for a quote, oh, we're going to send it to 4 other companies too.
And the 4 people on Home Advisor are paying for it as well.
Correct. And then they send it to Handy, which they also own, who undercuts all of our prices.
And he'll price it, dirt cheap
at $20 an hour. Yeah.
So does it work the other way? So anybody that calls the other company, do you also get their leads? So is that how they even that out?
Basically, if you pay for Home Advisor, you get leads. One of the ways Home Advisors is getting leads is anyone who requests a profile on a quote on Angie automatically gets shutted over to Home Advisor now.
So Derek, from a KPI standpoint, if I hear what you're saying, your lead source matters. Not all leads are as valuable as others. And
right. And watch it over time. I mean, like I said, for years, Angie's List was one of my favorite websites, but with the changes in ownership, I mean, your conversion rate on that would have gone from, I used to see 70 and 80% conversion rate on Angie's List. And now it's horrible. Last time I checked that with somebody, I think it was like 6%. So you're paying for leads and closing less than 1 out of 10.
Wow. Derek, do you have numbers on like what people might expect from different leads? Like a phone lead, you might expect to close those at this percentage versus a website lead, you might expect to close at, a much lower percentage or.
Honestly, Tom might have better numbers than I do on some of that stuff because of some of the stuff he's been doing. But in general, just for internally, I want to see if somebody says they're a referral, I want to see in excess of 90% of those closing. If I'm not seeing referrals in the 90% close rate, I feel like my salesperson's doing something really wrong. And I'm going to want to go listen to those calls to see what the problem is. Sometimes it's availability, in which case I'm like, yeah, that sucks. I need to hire more people. Could be price, although honestly, that's normally not the problem.
Yeah.
I'm looking for, what it is, but referrals should be extremely high. When somebody says they found you on the internet, I ask my people to poke a little bit more and ask more as to what that means. Because if they said they found me on something like Nextdoor, I'm also expecting a high close rate, like 80% because that's basically a referral. A friend asked on, because they'll often tell you sometimes, in fact, it's interesting. If somebody ever calls you and says, my neighbor referred me, if you poke at it a little bit, oh, what's your neighbor's name? Sometimes they'll say, well, I don't know. I posted on Nextdoor and you were thrown out there as a company. But you'll log it as referral. But was it a referral? It was a social media mention. So it's an interesting channel that we might need to watch. But if people are saying that it was a referral or a social, not a referral, but like a social media mention, I'm seeing about 70 to 80% close rates on that. Anytime somebody's on the phone, I expect to close at least half of those. So if somebody calls in, you've got them on the phone, you're talking to them live, we want to see about half of those close. And then it drops as you start getting things like web form fills, because some of those people you never get in touch with. And those are people that are probably filling out 3 and 4 forms and looking for 3 or 4 quotes.
Yeah. And they're doing it like 2:00 in the morning and they sober up the next day and forget they even did it.
Right. Or the fight they had that made them look it up in the first place was resolved. Or
So what we're really talking about here, I guess, is a couple of dimensions. One is the lead source, and the other is mode of communication. Are they calling? Is it an email? Is it a lead capture form? Is it online booking? Text and chat? I mean, there's so many different ways now that we have to interact with prospects and try to give them a quote.
Yeah, and phone is still the highest close rate without a doubt. You get to answer questions.
Except for in-home.
In-home.
You're right.
Yeah.
In-home is still the highest. I just don't know many people who do it still. But when you get the person.
Well, one of the people on today still does in-home. That's why I mentioned it.
And it's a big investment in expense. But if once you get out there, you do have a higher close rate. And honestly, part of it's because it's a better sales experience, but it's also kind of a filter. People aren't going to invite you out and spend their time with you coming to their house if they're not already halfway sold. It's just, It's a huge time commitment. So in-home has a higher close rate if you look at the number of houses you get into. But if you go back, starting at counting at your leads and how many do you actually get to quote, I would be curious to see whether or not the actual end close rate is the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, if I have 100 if I have 100 quotes come in, I'll probably quote 70% of them if I'm able to use internet and phone and all of my tools. If it has to be in-home, I never did in-home, so I don't know the numbers. It'd be something I'd be curious to check, and whoever does in-home, they might want to check. But do you quote 1 out of 3? Do you quote 50% of your leads? Because I quote about 70% of my leads in some way, shape, or form. That's currently the ratio I'm at. If someone tries to get in touch with me, about 70% of them end up getting a quote. And I'd be curious for the folks that do in-home, and you said someone who's on here is, what percentage of their people that fill out a form or in some way ask, do they actually end up in that house? So it'll be interesting.
Okay, so Linda closes 98% of in-home. Yep, that's pretty normal for the close rate for in-home. But Derek's question is, how
what
many
percentage?
of the,
Right.
Yeah, go ahead, Derek.
How many leads do you get to end up in one house?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm curious about, and I'd be interested in tracking.
And those are the actual quotes given. I remember we used to do a lot of in-home estimates, and I mean, it was a smaller number, but still meaningful that you'd show up and the customer wasn't there and you kind of made the trip for nothing, and those kind of hurt. So,
well, and the other thing which has always been interesting to me, and this is where tracking lead source, not just on conversion rates, but on lifetime customer would be interesting to me. Tom, guy who owns a software company, can track this stuff for me, is by lead source, what is your conversion rate? Because Rohan Gilks back in the day made an interesting point with me. He was, for those who don't know, Launch 27 in online booking, and he was explaining online booking, and we kept stopping him and saying, well, Rohan, what about this special customer? What about the person that needs towels folded? What about all of these questions and answers that the website doesn't answer? And Rohan kind of cut us off and was like, who books online? Easy customers that really don't care. And they just want to get their service done, and they want you to show up on time at a reasonable price. And they're just really not special. So you know what online booking does? It filters for easy to please customers. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And I wonder to what extent the people that actually want you to come out and see their house and see their special needs are the opposite, and they're the harder to please customers. So I'd really be curious, kind of by lead source, or maybe how you presented the quote or something, what that does to long-term conversion and ability to hold on to customers. Because Rohan's belief was, if you book online and you're that type of customer, you're the easy to please customer. And we all have these people. These are the people that when you've got a cleaner who sucks, you're like, oh, you know what? Give her Mrs. So-and-so because she never complains. And that's what a lot of people do when they have a bad cleaner. They give them the easy customers. And his view of the world was online booking filters for easy customers because they don't have special questions.
Things are a lot different now, because it's so easy to book online and everybody's so used to buying everything online now that I don't think that holds true as much as it used to.
I could see how it creates and another problem. People who book online expect it now, when they want it, how they want it, and might be grumpy that you can't clean them on Christmas Eve because they're used to going to Amazon and ordering when and where they want, and that you don't have that relationship. But these are all theories. Honestly, nobody's ever really tracked the data. So it'd be something that I'd be interested in doing, is sort of by lead source or how you communicate with people. What would those long-term conversions rates be? Or not, once again, not conversion rates, but retention rates.
No, we have tracked that. Nobody's been tracking it recently. Yeah. I haven't heard it being tracked, like especially the in-home hasn't been tracked recently, just because so few people are doing it. But back in the day, you definitely had a lot, or at least we did, and the people that I talked to all had a much longer retention with in-home estimates. So the people created relationships and they didn't want to let go of you. I mean, don't quote me on this, but my memory is that it was like 5.5 years was the average amount that you would keep an in-home estimate. And that's,
if we dig into the data, if we don't end up doing more in-homes again and going old school.
Yeah. But the reason why they're doing it now is different than why they did it before, so it's a completely different time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of the people that want in-home estimates from us currently are picky people, old people that don't understand how you would even understand how to clean their house if you don't come and look at it. More like that. But back in the day, it was just standard. You're coming to my house because I want to look at your face. That was why they had you come out. They wanted to see.
Right. They wanted to know could trust you. And then all of a sudden we all started getting into strangers' cars on a regular basis. Yeah.
So, that's kind of interesting. Does the turnover rate for, say, recurring service sets booked online, is that a higher turnover rate than something that was a phone sale or an in-home estimate sale?
Yeah, I'd be really curious just because I have lots of theories around it, but I don't know if they're true.
Yeah. I saw Tom.
We might have to. Yeah, we might dig into that a little bit.
But don't anybody reach out to Tom and ask him when those numbers are going to be available. He's just taking notes.
Yes, he's just thinking, I'm adding that to the long list of features that we might add.
Long list.
Hey, but if you can pull it, it'd make a heck of an article and maybe a nice broadcast to talk about and press releases and such. So Main Central answers the eternal question, is in-home really better?
It would make a really cool article in Cleaning Business Today, gratuitous plug. We're going to be, we've actually got more resources. We've got a lot more cool content in the pipeline. So CBT is 2022 is going to be a rocking year for Cleaning Business Today.
I got my article live on Monday.
What do you guys do?
Well, we used to do a lot more. We used to do a lot more content, and honestly, for a while there, A, we got busy, and B, it seemed like everyone was ignoring us for a while. I don't know why. So, it's hard to, hey, being honest, with changes in platforms and technology, everyone was hanging out in Facebook groups, and the idea that we were making a website and a publication was like, does anyone actually read this anymore? But we really started to take off. So we've started doing a lot more. And like I just did like a 1,600 word article about how do you value your business. And we've got articles.
And it was when I saw that article, I basically copied it and pasted it in Word to count the number of words. It's like, whoa, Derek, because I'm on cue to write an article next week, and I saw how long Derek's was, so now I have to work a little bit harder.
Well, see, the trick is I'm on a plane every Friday now, so I write my articles on planes.
Nice. Wow. All right, so for anybody
again, so somebody's got Facebook again.
Not me.
Huh. No, it's
weird.
It's not. I don't know what is going on.
Our technology is being a pain, but only to me.
No, I hear it too. I hear the feedback.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes when you speak, your words come back.
I don't hear it, Derek. I have a little bit of a crackle sound.
Okay.
But I only get that when Tom speaks. So.
Well, and if you're big enough, I also like another, back to our original topic of KPIs. I like to track close rate by person because that's also really insightful to see different sales abilities. Because for the most part, assuming you're sharing your leads evenly between people, that'll kind of let you see the difference in skill and seeing the difference of different salespeople and their ability to close things. You need to be a little bit careful. If one person answers the phone live and the other person chases down web leads, the web lead person is going to have a lower close rate. But if you're sharing the leads evenly, I do think you can learn a lot by looking at lead source and how it closes and or by person and what percentage each person closes. And at Blue Skies, yeah, a lot of animals at All-Star. At Blue Skies, we used to have one person who would outsell everyone else practically 2-to-1. His close rate was that much better than the other three because we used to the way it used to be structured at Blue Skies is all the calls for the entire country went into one call center. We had 4 people working there, and one of our salespeople used to sell nearly twice as much, have twice as good a sales rate as everyone else. So most of the people closed 30%, but he would close 60%. Now there's a couple things you need to look at that. That's not always good. when you have a salesperson who has a close rate that's too high, I encourage you to go listen to the calls. Some of it's skill, but it's also easy to sell if you overpromise. And so you need to, if you notice the close rate being too high, you should not immediately give that person raises and promotions. You should start listening to their calls, because it can mean they're pricing too low. They're giving discounts. They're, oh yeah, we'll always send the same person. No. And that's the stuff that you want to keep an eye on. Now, skill does matter. You will see some people sell at higher rates, but you want to get real curious about why, and either listen to the call and try to figure out why they're selling so much more and train the other people to bring them up to the same level, or figure out what they're doing that maybe is not good and correct it. Because once again, it's easy to sell if you overpromise. Oh yeah, we'll never miss a corner. We'll always be on time. You'll always get the same cleaner.
Right.
And then
I love that one. You'll always get the same cleaner.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
I like the one where we will always be there exactly at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's happening. Although I do know one company that actually is pretty good at actually doing that. So.
Well, and it was really interesting for me because when I came out of corporate America, we did overpromise sometimes on our products. Don will save your life, but that's all their discussion. I remember when I was at Procter & Gamble, one of our claims was using P&G products would increase your employee retention. I still don't understand how we made that claim, but I used to say that. But anyway,
But those are claims that are kind of hard to disprove.
Right.
Prove that we don't. But,
right. The theory was your employees would feel that you were more valued because you bought them better products. And yeah, but that was the claim we used to make. And coming over here, I hired Debbie Sardona as my first coach. And I remember going to her company, and Debbie's people used to practically unsell people. They'd be like, just to be clear, we're not promising you an arrival time. We're going to do our best to send the same cleaner, but no promises. But they're all trained the same, so you don't need to worry about it. We are not cleaning underneath your bed. I mean, they had this list of like 20 things that they would tell people that they're not doing. And as someone coming out of corporate America promised people the world, I was like, this is terrifying. And now I'm like,
do you still want us to clean? Yes, you do. Did I say we suck? Okay, and you still want us? Okay, we're good now.
But what I discovered is what she was really good at was just setting expectations appropriately, of making sure that people understood, I'm selling people. People are fallible. This is the limitations of the really of people. And don't get me wrong, it came with lots of good stuff too. We really care. We're going to do a good job. If you ever have a problem, let us know. But hey, we're dealing with people. Our whole business is people. People occasionally get in traffic accidents. They occasionally miss something, but we care. Call us and we'll fix it. But they spend a bunch of time telling people all of this bad stuff is going to happen to you. It is. It's life. But you know what? We're going to fix it better than most people. And it was really interesting to me. So, and that's where if you look at someone with a super high close rate, once again, I don't just want to know a salesperson's close rate, but what's their retention rate? Because did they overpromise? Did they cram somebody on Tuesday that really shouldn't have been on Tuesday? It's real easy for you to go, well, let's see, it's a 6-hour clean and I've got 3 people finishing at 3. So I'll put 3 people there at 3 and they can finish on time. Yeah, that's not going to happen in the real world.
And I get my sales bonus this week.
Right. But I just put an impossible job on the schedule. That's going to cause customer service to be screamed at in a couple of days.
And a 1-star review, and the customer's not going to want to pay.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So this is what I have heard so far. Track your just your sales, how many you close, right? Track how many leads come in first. Track how many you close, like a total percentage. And then maybe break it down by a couple of things, person, and then also by whether it's done by phone, by web.
Like I said, start by looking at the big numbers. Like once again, Blue Sky Cincinnati, we traditionally close 35% of our leads for home cleaning. Last month it was 6%. So I don't normally spend a lot of time digging into details. I'm like, oh, look, we closed 35%. Life is good. Move on. But this last month, we closed 6% of our leads in Cincinnati. And I went, well, that's not good. So I've spent a bunch of time digging in. Where are the leads coming from? Why is our close rate so low? Does it vary by the person that they talk to? Because now I'm trying to figure out, why did that number move so dramatically, and come up with answers to the questions. So you got to be careful. You can't track everything. So that's why I said, when it comes to sales, the big kahuna number is what percentage of your leads converts to some type of cleaning, either one time or recurring, because that means you're getting them on the schedule. And then you can start getting a lot more curious about when things are off, why. Or if you just heard me say you should close roughly 40% and you're closing 20%, maybe now you should start poking in and trying to figure it out. But I want to see it within historic ranges and ideally getting a little bit better at all times.
And so now what I'm hearing you say, Derek, is just start tracking the numbers. Right. Just start looking at the numbers so that you have a baseline for your own company, and just start improving it. If you're currently at 15, be shooting for 20. If you're
right. And I don't want you to, everyone, sometimes we talk about all these numbers and it really confuses people because, oh my God, I can't track all this stuff. The big number is, think of it as you get leads, which is basically raw materials or at bats, and what percentage of them do you actually turn into money? And as long as that's in an acceptable range, you don't necessarily have to go deep every single month. Now, occasionally you want to go deep and start asking questions. All right, I have a 40% close rate. Is that 30% with Derek and 60% with Liz? Maybe I need to fire Derek and hire more Liz's. Or maybe I need to listen to Liz's calls and see if she promises things she shouldn't promise. So there's the overall top level thing, which once again, I always say your big KPI is your dashboard. It's the thing you look at when you're driving. But when the little check engine light goes off, that's when you pull out the little thing that you plug in that it gives you more detail. Those numbers are the details. Why is that big number not what I expected it to be? Why is it moving so much? And sometimes it's a pleasant. And, sometimes your close rate will go up. And as you start digging into it, you're like, wow, this new salesperson is great. Or all of a sudden we're getting more leads from Google, and Google leads have a higher close rate. So let's stop paying for things. So,
yeah. All right. What about, you did mention at one point, and I know Matt did talk about this, tracking whether or not they are one-time cleans or recurring. Does that matter?
Oh, it matters a lot. Honestly, we most of us prefer recurring service, although I've met people with big companies that just do one time. Yeah. There's a big company that we all know of that I think does like 70% one time as their revenue, which has always surprised me, but they do it. But yeah, and that's going to vary by lead source too. Google local services, those ads that appear at the top of Google, are good, but I find it brings a lot of one times. They're good. If you need business next week, you can turn it on and they've got a high conversion rate, but they're normally one times. So it's interesting to see things like that, that certain channels are more likely to bring you one time than others. And there are one-time people that will never be recurring. They're just not the type. They're special events. My SEO company recently wanted to rank me for move cleans. And I said, no, thank you. And they were really confused because they were like, look at all this search volume and we can get this. I'm like, I really don't like move cleans. They're kind of the definition of one-time events. I don't want to spend my, X amount of dollars per month ranking for a one-time event. Let's rank for some things that are likely to get me some recurring service.
If you do a really awesome job and leave your card behind, maybe the person that moves in behind them will call you, but don't hold your breath on that.
Right. So, but my SEO company was all supercharged on it and excited because, here's a phrase we can rank for, and here's all the search traffic, and we think we can get you on the top 3 in 2 months. And I was like, yeah, no thanks. I don't want those people. They fill up my schedule, and then I can't take the recurrings.
Right. They're great for fill-ins, but you don't want to have them be the bulk of your company. At least you personally don't.
At least me personally. Once again, I know some people that do move cleans and charge like $800 and have $1 million companies, but God, it sounds like heck to me.
Linda is saying, sorry, I got sidetracked. If you still want to know, I do 2 to 6 in-home estimates a week, not enough to grow to my 2022 wig. No, it's not, Linda. That is why I want to add automated estimates this year. She's in the Express group, Strategic Success. So that's why I'm giving her a little bit of grief there. One-time cleans are done on the phone. We just started taking one-time cleans again. Just like Laura just started. It sounds like a lot of people are starting to catch up with their staffing.
It seems like they're figuring out staffing. It's odd because the press is just now really starting to catch up on the story that there's no employees. But I feel like a lot of people are starting to catch up that they've got employees now. So it's like they're behind.
Well, also now our clients are getting sick with COVID, so everybody has more room in the schedule.
True.
Sorry.
It's also staffing. We were flogging the heck out to try to hire it reliable, and we have 2 people in training today. And it's been a long time since I had 2 people in at once. Yeah. So Robin's question is interesting. What % of your initials would you convert to reoccurring? So it depends on how you refer to it. An initial cleaning to me is in my terminology, somebody who has said they want recurring service and I did a first time clean for them. If somebody calls me and says they want to move clean, that's a one-time clean. An initial is somebody who said, I'm interested in regular service and I did an initial clean. Those we typically expect to close 90% of them. I'll pull the actual numbers. I think it's like 87 last time I checked, but it's roughly around 90% of initials convert to recurring, because those are people that said, I want your service. And then it's up to us to see whether or not we can deliver. Now, that's also based on doing some screening and, once again, not selling people we shouldn't be selling.
I feel like that's low, Derek. I mean, if somebody says that they want recurring service and we go out and do an initial, I think our number is high 90s for that. It's rare that we don't.
Well, you're probably better than us, but we typically lose about 1 out of 10 recurring customers after the first clean.
For what?
A lot of it's misaligned expectations.
Okay.
We didn't do something they expected us to do. Sometimes it's just a cleaner that's not as good. One of the problems that I have, and I have not overcome yet, is my really good cleaner schedule gets filled. So my initial are almost always done by my most junior employees.
And sometimes, like, especially if it's an online booking, they'll sign up for weekly service because it's the cheapest bill rate, and cancel after one job.
But we do end up with a lot of expectation misalignment. I've not got quite into Debbie's approach yet. Once again, I used to laugh at Debbie because as soon as people said, and I want to book, it felt like their people pulled out a list. Said, great, here's the 20 things we're not going to do. So we've never quite gotten that extreme. But we constantly seem to have issues where we get there and the customer seems surprised that we take the dirty dishes out of the sink, clean the sink, and put the dirty dishes back in. And we're like, yeah, we don't do dishes. I don't know why that was a surprise. Well, they're like, well, I know you didn't do dishes, but you won't even do the dishes in the sink. We're like, no, we don't do dishes means we don't do dishes.
We call those dishes. Even the ones in the sink, we still call those dishes.
But customers sometimes will go, I get that you're not going to do a bunch of dishes, but you won't even clean the 2 coffee cups in the sink. And we're like, no, we won't. So that's stuff that sometimes gets us into trouble.
Okay. That makes sense.
So things like that.
And Tom, your point makes sense as well. We usually have all of our recurring books on the phone. So that's why ours would be a different number.
Well, like I said, I think I've got a little of a business model challenge too, because my solos, I run solos, and we always make the comment that good cleaners schedules fill up fast because their initials start booking, they cover for somebody who's sick, and that person calls and says, can you give me so-and-so? She was better than my regular person. So our best people tend to get a really full schedule and don't end up with a bunch of initials. So normally when you book service with me, you're getting my most junior person because their schedule's open.
Yeah. So Robin, I'm just going to check in with you. I use the same terminology for initials that Derek uses. An initial is just the first of a recurring set. Is that what you were asking about? Just to double check that.
Now, if somebody's
one time.
Now, if somebody says they want one-time clean, so yeah, he just Robin just said, is there a difference between first clean and an initial? So once again, first clean and initial are the same to me, which is you've said in some way, shape, or form you want recurring service versus what we call a one-time clean. One-time clean is a graduation party. One-time clean is a move. One-time clean is my mother-in-law is coming. One-time clean is Christmas. These are people that have never given me the impression that they want recurring service. They didn't book recurring service. They've never said, I'm interested in recurring service, but I want to start with a one-time. That to me is an initial. A one-time is somebody who just flat out says, I'm moving, I need a cleaning. I have a Christmas party and I need a cleaning. My conversion rate on those people is low, but it is doable. We can convert those people with time. And what's interesting is we convert them to what Tom's always called on demand. They don't typically end up on a regular schedule, but with some prompting and emails and stuff, I do find I can get them to book more frequently.
And you want to tag those one-time cleans. Do they have the potential of doing more work or not? So basically, if it's a move out clean, you want to tag that, and you're not going to waste your time marketing to them and following up, and probably wouldn't even bother to put them on your newsletter list. What's the point? They're moving out of your market. But if it's a one-time clean that, hey, my mother-in-law is coming tomorrow, can you come clean my house? Then yeah, if we do a good job, maybe we can get some more work out of them down the road.
Those people, usually you can market to them every 3 months and you'll hit on them. They're like, oh yeah, that would be nice. I did like to have my house clean. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was a good experience. I wouldn't mind getting that as a Christmas gift, a Mother's Day gift, gift to myself. Yeah.
And a lot of times it'll take more than just 1 or 2 of those. And some people never switch off of on demand. But a lot of times you can, or maybe not a lot, but sometimes you absolutely can get people switched over.
And that's one of the interesting things. And Tom, I assume at some point you're going to play with your fun spreadsheets. You're not going to move mountains by taking the one-times and converting to recurring. You're going to maybe convert 2 or 3%, which doesn't sound like much. But if I move my close rate from 40% to 43% and put it on Tom's spreadsheet and show what it does over 5 years, those are big numbers. So don't blow it off when I say 2 or 3%. 2 or 3% over multiple months, over multiple years is big numbers. I also don't want you flogging your salesperson, though, and saying, what do you mean you only converted, 1 out of 10 people that said they never wanted recurring service to begin with?
So Robin is asking, in terms of budgeting for recurring, what do you expect? 50% to convert, or is this low?
A lot of it, once again, because I can't answer all your business model questions of it. Do you not take one-times when you're busy? It's tough for me to answer that. I expect, like I said, about 40% of my people who call in to book to something.
Referring to what?
I had the what if spreadsheet that I did in a couple of my classes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it said,
what is this mean?
On the what if spreadsheet, I had 2 numbers. What percentage of your customers book a first time clean and 1% book recurring? Normally for me, it was about 50% of people that booked a one time would end up in recurring in some way. So they were either initials or one time. So those two terms kind of got combined.
Okay, so that's why he's asking about that.
That's a spreadsheet that I use in one of my classes. So I would normally say about 50% of one times convert. And it can vary. Like we were just saying, All-Star was closer to 70, 80% for a while, because if you called in and said, I wanted to move clean, they said, call Reliable. We don't do that.
Right. So Reliable's conversion rate on one times was really low.
It was really crappy because we got all the move cleans. Yep.
Right.
Oh, we do. You're need a dorm turnover? No problem. All the stuff that All-Star was always too busy to take. We'd be like, sure, revenue, I'll take it. Which, by the way, is normal. When you're smaller, you got to hustle for business. As you get bigger, you tend to do less. It's really funny. As you become a bigger company, your scope of work tends to get smaller. A lot of people tend to try to want to do add-on services, but I found the most successful companies as they get bigger do less, not more.
We hear that all the time.
You spend your time on the things that are making you the most money, and don't waste your time on the things that aren't.
I mean, Reliable's in the we got to make payroll type phase of we're at 300,000 in revenue, the lovely valley of despair. We're in that, we got to make payroll next week type mode. But once you get to a certain size, you're like, God, moving cleans are a pain in the butt. I don't want to do those. The one thing we've never done in any of my companies is Airbnbs because they're a pain in the butt. Even I won't do that, but we do all the other crazy stuff still.
Well, we are approaching the top of the hour. We've got a few more minutes left. Derek, what you got going on over the next several months? Any activities, programs, fun stuff you're doing you'd like to share with our audience?
Nothing too exciting right now. We do have CBF Live coming up with Debbie's group, but that's going to be, I'll throw it in the comments a little bit later here. I didn't plan ahead and actually get my code, so oops.
We can't do it very much later. We're leaving. So
I know. Hey, let's be honest. About 20 people watch this live and a couple hundred people watch it later on. So I'll throw it in here in a couple minutes. But it's the big event we do in Dallas. It's really cool, actually. A lot of people, especially people who've seen Debbie Sardone speak before, sometimes will say, I don't need to go that. I've seen Debbie before. But, man, if you've never been to it, it's a heck of a program. It's in April this year, April 7, 8, and 9. It's amazing on how good the speakers are. It's not just Debbie on stage. This year, it's all about leveling up your employees and your office staff. So it's going to be a really cool event. So I'll post some details in here. But I'm not doing too much until then, honestly. I'm actually trying to plan a trip to go see gorillas right now.
What part of the world would that take you to?
Africa.
Wow.
Funsies.
Yeah. So I actually don't have anything planned for the next couple of weeks. I'm normally doing a big event every month or so, but I'm chilling a little bit.
Okay.
Well, you'll still be traveling back and forth in the snow.
Yeah, I know.
Writing articles while you do it.
Yeah. Hey, 3-hour plane rides are a great time to write 1,600-word article.
Is this a
link?
Well,
actually,
yep, that's the link.
Okay.
I did have a comment about Cleaning Business Today. Just a reminder to everybody to look for it if you're not getting it, because I was talking to someone not that long ago. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago anyway, and they had never seen it, but they thought they were registered and it was going to spam. So maybe go in and yank that little thing out again.
Yeah, it does. You do get emailed every other week, and sometimes Google will decide that's spam and put it in your spam filter. So you do want to check and mark it not as spam. And like I said, honestly, we're really investing a lot in content again. It's kind of funny. For a long time, our viewership started to dip. But man, in the last 3 years, it's taken off and people have gotten really interested again. It's interesting how what's old is new again. And people are going, you know what? These top 5 tip type articles, which were all the rage, people are realizing aren't really useful, that the tips are garbage. And so they're wanting more in-depth stuff again. So, well, it's true.
Cool.
There was a lot of clickbaity stuff that for a while was kicking our butt. And honestly, Tom and I just never would play that game. I'm like, I'm not going to write a 500-word fluff piece that basically doesn't give people anything. And we were losing a little bit because of that. But, man, all of a sudden, it's like the world has caught on that, those little top 5 this, top 3 that articles typically aren't that useful.
Right. So
they want more in-depth 1,600, 2,000-word articles that actually get into details and profiles of successful companies. And, when you look at the articles that how much is my company one's worth is like 1,600 words, but there's also a profile down there of a guy who started a residential cleaning company and decided he'd rather do commercial. And it's actually pretty in-depth and talks about how he did it and why he made the decision. And I really liked it. So, yeah.
If you haven't subscribed to Cleaning Business Today, you just go to cleaningbusinesstoday.com, and it's really easy, just your email address and your name, and you'll get our newsletter every other week. And it's useful information.
Well, cool.
All right.
We are at the top of the hour. Derek, as always, thank you. This was good, and we didn't break out a spreadsheet, but we will.
I know we should have broke out I kind of expected you to have one, Tom, which is why I didn't make one. Or I figured you'd be pulling up Made Central screenshots to go, see these close rates? So
honestly, it's 2022 and we don't even need spreadsheets anymore. If you've got, the other right tools, you're able to kind of get to the point without the middleman of a spreadsheet. But I still have a few. We'll put them to work. So We got some people popping up here in our chat that aren't supposed to be, and I'm having to block them. But nothing out of the ordinary. So, hey, thanks, Derek. We will do this again real soon. We'll be back Monday. Has our guest for Monday confirmed, Liz?
Martha, yes.
Yeah.
Yep, she's
And-
confirmed.
And we're going to be talking about customer retention and engagement. That's
And
kind of
quality
important.
also, and quality. So
And quality, it all
combination
kind of ties in there. How
those
to measure
metrics.
that,
Yep.
how to measure it and use
Well,
those
when you do
numbers
a
to
bad
manage your
job,
business.
customers don't keep you. There's enough.
Dang it.
Whole new idea.
I know. Well,
Okay.
I always tell people I run the McDonald's of cleaning services. So
Yeah, I repeat it for you too.
yeah.
So you guys take care. We'll be back Monday, 5 o'clock Eastern.